Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying!
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. We are back for another episode. I'm back from my week off. Hello, everyone. Hope you've all had a lovely time. Hope you haven't missed me too much. Don't answer that. I'm here with Rohan and George, my two boys. How are you?
Hello, good sir.
Very good.
Good. Rohan, nice run?
Yeah, it was good. Good PB. So
Oh, little PB. I feel like you get a PB every time.
Yeah, I have, and I think the thing is like that moment in which I start to that moment in which I start to plateau is gonna be really sad. But right now, I seem to be improving every time.
Yeah.
So
just PB every time. I've never really got into running. I just don't enjoy it.
Me neither. I played at a high level, and every time we did running drills, I detested it.
Yeah.
But weirdly, so you know sprints, like when you're getting coached and you do like the windmill sprints and shuttle runs. That I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I could sprint, pause, no problem. Repetitive. You ask me to run, keep pace in a freaking dumb line or route. Absolutely, bane of my existence.
I just hate it. And people like weirdos like you, Rohan, are like, oh, you'll love it when you hit the runner's high. I've never had a runner's high in my life.
Do you know what? I don't like love it. I think it's okay. My favourite cardio is swimming, but the problem with swimming is it's very hit and miss in the sense of, I don't know about you guys, but I know there's obviously the whole idea of showering, etc., but I hate like how dirty it can be, like before you actually step into the pool, like all the hair and the gunk and
the people who weed in the jacuzzi. Yeah.
Just like the absolute cretins.
I have to admit, in my week off, I just to let people know, I had a week off literally just to step away from things. I thought it'd be a good time, and I played football on Monday. I just want to offer a public apology to Raheem Sterling. For saying he isn't running, because Christ on a bike. I hadn't played in 2 years. I did 2 sprints and I was literally like, get me in goal. It was horrific. So yeah, it was not fun. But we are back. We are here we're gonna do a mailbag. We thought we'd answer as many questions. Does that mean we've run out of things to talk about? No. Don't know why you'd say that. But if you listen to us for the first time, make sure you do all the good stuff. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify and Apple, make sure you sub as well. Leave a rating. And yeah, just going to jump into it. Get to as many questions as we possibly can. We reached out to you on X, on Discord, and on the YouTube community tab, which is a thing. Rohan is going to handle X. George is going to do YouTube, and I'm going to do Discord. Why don't we start with you, Rohan? A question from our favourite website on X. Let's start off with one from there.
Okay, I'm going to start off with a really fun one. It's from @SpanishAlex85. What is your best 11 in the Mikel Arteta era? And that's individually for all of us, on each.
Best as in of okay.
So I guess you can interpret it many ways. I think like it's a combination of like best players, but also the impact they've had on the team as well. I think so.
Okay.
Are we talking like from specific season? Like if we're talking, for example, Thomas Partey the first year, or is it as they come?
Yeah, you can take anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
we could do it. Let's do it by seasons. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. I'm taking in goal. I'm taking Raya's 24-25, I think. Raya's 24-25.
Yeah.
I'm going to just go pure performance.
It's
like,
between
maybe
him
you guys could do
and
favorites,
Martinez, because our play style is affected by Raya for me. But if I'm talking about shot stopper, like, I mean, I don't know if Martinez had stayed. Where are we talking? His level could be. But Raya's so into. I probably agree with you, Alex. I think Raya, his level is just too much at the current moment, and for what we do, and the play style we employ, I don't know if there's many goalkeepers in the world that can outdo that.
Yeah, Rohan, any disagreement?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Right back, I'd go for Raya for sure. Right back, I'd go for Ben White. 23-24 post January.
I said I had a week off. I ended up watching old highlights. I was against the Liverpool game where we scored early, and also the Spurs game at home in 22-23, both of those. Ben White at full tilt, sprinting. Oh my, I think he had a better season overall in 23-24, but physically, If we can get him back to that level, my word, he was a joke that season. I'd probably say 23-24, Ben White, yeah. Although Timber's having an unbelievable year. I think maybe if we'd finished the campaign, Timber would have a shout.
But I think it's also good to not just consider the season, but also the longevity as well. I think what Ben White's given over 22-23 and 23-24, in terms of consistency, best right back in the league, like performance-wise, what he gave. And that's a testament to how good he is in terms of adapting to a new role, especially when we consider how good he was at centre-back as well in 21-22.
Yeah.
Gabriel. So.
Yeah. Any disagreement, George?
No, I don't think so. I think Ben has a little bit more to offer as well. I think he's been out for so long that when he's back fit, I think there's going to be a serious discussion about him and Timber.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're definitely going Saliba and Gabriel. I don't think anyone's picking any of the centre backs. In terms of a year, maybe Gabriel 24-25 and Saliba last season. That's my instinct. I could be wrong. Gabriel's been unbelievable. So I watched the Chelsea game live. His stride length, you forget when you don't watch it live. No, but honestly, like he literally in one stride, it's like 6 feet. It's insane. It's insane.
I might have you flipped. Like I thought this year is the best I've seen from Saliba on the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think Gabriel has been great. Has been great for nigh on 2 years now. But there was a point last year, I think, at the beginning of the season, and there was obviously that one benched moment. But after that moment, from October onwards, he was the better center back between the two for me, and it was kind of lagging, I think, in timeline narrative for me at that point. There's a lot of people that had put Saliba ahead of him, and so I think but it's pretty close. Like I don't think Gabriel and Saliba have changed massive levels. It's just I've noticed a big difference in Saliba on the ball this year. And I feel like he's always been brilliant defensively. We've known that. But I think he took a step up this year in possession. So I think I might go 24-25 Saliba and then 23-24 Gabriel.
I agree. I think in terms of on the ball, this has been Saliba's best season. I think a lot of people haven't liked Saliba a lot this season. I think that's more recency bias with some of the moments that he's had, but I think he's had a fantastic season still. And I know he's downplayed himself and he's looked at Gabriel being the outright better player out of the two, but I think he's just a very humble player. I actually do think though, in terms of overall, 22-23 Saliba had like more really eye-catching moments in games, like man of the match performances. So I'd go 22-23 Saliba, and I'd go this year Gabriel 24-25 Gabriel.
For me, I think it's a toss-up for Saliba in terms of the season. I think I saw some numbers recently in terms of his like win percentage in the air recently. He's like he hasn't lost a duel in like 3 months or something. It's crazy. I think you could go either. I'm going to stick with Gabriel this season though. I think Gabriel's taken a big stride. He just looks like the leader back there for me, and maybe that's my eye, but I also feel like he personally has taken a step up for me personally in 24-25, so I'll probably stick him there. Left back. Okay, options. Tierney 21-22, Zinchenko 22-23, Miles 24-25. What are we going? George, start with you.
This could be bias. I think Miles has delivered one of the more complete performances I've seen. I think Kieran's partnership relied on ESR and playing a particular way. The stuff that I've seen from Miles, which extends, by the way, into his international career, like the way that he's been able to stride for stride, continuously improve. And I've made this claim before. I felt that he should have started earlier. If he had started the season with the same opportunity, which he would have taken, in my opinion, even earlier, and continued the season at this pace, where it's not just been 8 to 9 games that people have seen, I think this claim would be a lot less shocking as before. But I remember even in the Discord saying, Miles will be a starter. He will be an England international by the end of the season. And I just think that the versatility Miles can show as far as going on the overlap, operating in midfield, coming deep whilst defending that left-hand channel. I always felt that Kieran Tierney, in his best season, offered a level of final third productivity that I think Miles has at least shown to match in big moments. I mean, that goal against Manchester City is wild for a player of his position, and to do it in the manner that he did, weak foot. But yeah, so I think that Miles for me has developed a completeness that I would take over a Kieran Tierney, who probably had a better final third and a better peak skill in a particular phase. But I just don't know if he was as consistent overall in terms of all phases. You know, Miles, you can drop him into build-up, he'll be completely fine. He completely owns the left-hand side as far as a dueling capacity goes. And then when things don't work out, you can just pop him into midfield, change things at the back, and he goes as is. And it's just, I don't know if we've had a player like that we've been able to rely upon.
Yeah. I mean, even Tuchel moved him around. That was his way of doing
That's
it.
That's crazy, by the way. On your debut, for Tuchel to rely on an 18-year-old to change tactics, like...
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's 1 goal and no assists, so you could take that route. But to be honest, I don't disagree. And also, it's quite difficult because Tierney was almost relied on as the final action, whereas I don't think Miles is, and I don't think it's necessarily... to be honest, if we're talking about improvements on Miles, I think I was watching him for a video earlier. I think I'd like to see a little bit more creative passing around the box and maybe a little bit more dynamic in the final third. I'm nitpicking. So if you wanted to do that, maybe Tierney wins that. But I think in terms of overall, yeah, I'd probably go with Miles. Rohan?
I actually think Kieran Tierney's 2020-2021 season was better than his 21-22 in terms of consistency. And I know I'm being quite pedantic.
No.
But genuinely, I know we were in the trenches, but our main source of chance creation.
Yeah, it was literally
primarily
him.
Through Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
So that's both a good and a bad thing. I'd go Zinchenko though, personally, 22-23, because of what he gave to the team and how it allowed us to move from a specific structure to a different structure that effectively galvanised the project and allowed us to go into 2 successive title challenging seasons. I think Zinchenko is exactly what he is on the team. Like, you know, his flaws are absolutely there to be seen. They were there at Manchester City, and you saw that in his first season at Arsenal as well. I remember the first game against Crystal Palace. I don't know if you guys remember it, where he was so good on the ball, but Jordan Ayew had his number every single time when they hit that ball over the top, and we were like screaming for Kieran Tierney to come on because the game just didn't belong to Zinchenko as it went more towards the second half. But what he offered to the team, I do think he gets my pick, even though Miles is just...
Yeah, there's probably some recency bias in the Miles pick for me. I think, yeah, I just think the tail end of that season, he had such a brilliant impact, and you're right, and I think in that jump, but say he hadn't been part of that jump, say he came in, I don't know, 23, 24 and did that when we'd already sort of made that jump, I don't know if we'd feel that way. I think the points totals and the tallies and that beginning of the season, he was riding that wave. Whether he himself was perfect, I don't know. Let's go to midfield 3. Partey, 22-23 at the base. Any disagreement?
Yeah, but I think this can get very hard now because someone's going to be left out, and I think someone's going to be left out of Declan Rice, Granit Xhaka, and Thomas Partey. There's only 2 spots because Martin Odegaard gets in for me. 23, 24 Martin Odegaard, personally.
But in terms of at the base of the midfield, like as a performance as a 6, I think Partey 22-23.
Are we going strictly on like positions now? We're not like just.
I think
throwing...
so. I think we have to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you would have to because, I mean, barring the last 6-7 games that season, Thomas Partey's levels were insane. We were looking at him as being even better than Rodri in that season. You know, he did tail off at the end for sure.
But I'm looking at Declan Rice from last year, January onward, and despite being in a box to box, you put that boy in the base of midfield, even in that run, he's reaching levels of. I've always felt that Thomas Partey, even at his best, right? There were still moments I would look at and say, from a vertical passing sense, I thought that you're making the wrong decision. I think that you're rushing play. And I don't think that we saw the same defensive frailties that we've seen with the current Thomas Partey, whose legs are gone. But I look at Declan Rice and I look, okay, at your best, at your most fit, in which I've seen you in an Arsenal shirt, despite playing in a different position, I put you at the base of that midfield with a Granit Xhaka, 22, 23, and a Martin Odegaard of that same time. and I give you the same conditions that Thomas Partey had, I think Declan Rice is going to perform a little bit better. And I think it's just based on the talent that I've seen him show us. I mean, he comes in, he starts going onto corners as far as, taking over our set piece routine from that point of view. He is somebody that I think also above Thomas Partey that I would provide is I think that when games are going tough and they're getting away from us, I think Declan rises consistently. I think that Thomas Partey had really good moments against rivals, but as far as I look at the team and if the game is getting away from us, I think Declan Rice is one of the few people in this team that I've seen consistently be able to do that and almost willingly on his own refuse to lose. He has that gear to take us to. And I just think with Granit Xhaka and Declan Rice there, that I think the best we've seen from Thomas Partey and Xhaka is clear, because I don't think Declan has had the opportunity to play in that way. But I just think the talent that I've seen from Declan is just too much. In an Arsenal shirt, even, I'd go as far to say.
This is the thing, isn't it? Because it's like, if you told me, like, I had my team and the midfield three was Rice, Odegaard and Xhaka. But then if we're doing strictly on positions and then seasons and how much game time they played in their respective positions, I just find it difficult to not pick Partey because of how many games he played that season as a defensive midfielder as opposed to what Rice did. So if we're doing it on seasons...
Because positionally, Rice had his best moments in box-to-box. Like, if you want to be nitpicky. But we all know what he is as far as the base of midfield. And if he had that Granit Xhaka link, it's like, what are you gonna do?
It's always difficult, these combined 11s. You always end up just bending. I did one on Sky recently, I put Isak off the left, I think it was. So I was like, he's got to be in the team. But I haven't done that for anyone else, but he's allowed to have it off the team. So I think personally for me, Partey hit. I'm just going off like an individual season in a position, and I think in terms of kind of what Rohan was saying, like that season, that run he had, I think everything went through him. Rice was actually talking about this yesterday in terms of how Mikel sets up his midfield, and he emphasised how much play goes through the six, and I felt like that was really that season for us. I think Partey was extraordinary. I totally fell off. So I'd go Partey base, and I'd probably put Dec. If I could have like back end of 23 and maybe the middle of 24, 25 as a left eight, could I have that? Otherwise, I'd pick Xhaka.
I think Xhaka has to be in this team. I think Granit Xhaka, when we're talking about most consistent players in the Mikel Arteta tenure, I'm looking at Bukayo Saka, and I'm looking at Granit Xhaka as well during his time here. He was genuinely ridiculous under Arteta. What annoys me is kind of like that 22-23 season, people see that as being the season Xhaka actually started to play well at Arsenal. Granit Xhaka was playing well at Arsenal for a very long time under Arteta, like genuinely. And I actually think his 21-22 season, in terms of overall performances, was better than his 22-23. So I would go Xhaka 21-22, even though his output in 22-23 was higher because of the significant role change.
Midfield three then, I would go Partey 22-23 at the base. I'm gonna. This feels incredibly harsh on Xhaka, but I can't have a team without Declan Rice in it. So I'm gonna go Rice 23-24, and then I'm gonna go Odegaard 22-23. Don't know. George, your three?
I think what Xhaka has given, I'm kind of with Rohan as far as the influence of Granit Xhaka. So he has to be in my team. And it's my debate between Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. And that's the biggest thing for me. And I maintain, this is part of the problem, you give a platform, it's my same logic for Miles. Miles has started 9 games, but I believe the level I've seen is greater than I've seen from Kieran Tierney, but are you going to value the season that you got over the 9 games of sample you got? Yeah. And I saw the 9 games of sample, so to speak, from Declan from January onwards that I just felt was a level that Partey didn't reach in ignoring positional debates. And if I had put Declan with Granit, I think we see a different level. I still think we're looking to replace the Granit Xhaka. Like, we've arguably spent over £100 to replace the Granit Xhaka effect unsuccessfully yet. You could argue that. There's still a left-hand side question mark. And, he was doing things for this team. He played so many roles, mate, like Granit Xhaka. Like, when you talk about a player that has been moldable, consistently available, coming back, it was what he had to go through. He received a lot of stuff that wasn't on him. Let me put it that way. And I think both fans and him have a point to different sides of the debate, but I think he never moved on from that. And I don't think you could ever be loved after something like that to the degree he deserved, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying I think I would go Granit Xhaka. I cannot exclude Declan Rice for me, and Martin Odegaard. And I just think that midfield, wow, if we got a chance to see something like that, you're talking something pretty special.
Tasty. Rohan, quickly, final three.
Can't believe I'm doing this. It's actually crazy, but if you're doing it by seasons, I've got to go. Thomas Partey, 22-23. Martin Odegaard, 23-24. And Granit Xhaka, 21-22.
So you hate Declan Rice. Got it. Front three. Because remember, this team is actually going to play. So this is correct. Let's do a front three. We might have to be a little bit quick with this because I want to get on to some other questions. I'm going to stick Aubameyang. Aubameyang's in there. I don't know which season. Maybe 1920 because we won the FA Cup. I don't know. Saka. I'm going to go Saka 23-24 on the right. I'm going to go Jesus 22-23. Is that fair? Half a season. And I'm going to go Aubameyang, but I don't know what season yet. I think I might change that in a second. Rohan?
Saka, 24-25. He was on course to having a ridiculous campaign. Martinelli, on the left, 22-23. And again, I'm going with the Zinchenko argument. I've got to put Jesus in there, 22-23, even though it was half the campaign. And even though Havertz's form post-2024 was insane. And even though Aubameyang single-handedly won Arsenal an FA Cup, so it's tough.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm changing anything in my front three from you, Rohan. And I think it's a simple fact, really quickly, that Aubameyang was a source of goals, but I think I've seen goals in that team, but there was stuff Martinelli was doing. He was on pace to set the record for himself as far as goals. There wasn't really a difference as far as the goals to game ratio at that season with Martinelli, the way that he was performing, but he was doing a lot more for the team as well. And that team for Aubameyang was set up for him, where we really didn't have to do much. He was focused on finishing, was the goal. And I just think that there was a level of completeness that Martinelli was showing defensively. Also, as far as his durability under contact as well, as far as being an outlet, what he was taking on the run on the outside. Yeah, there's some serious stuff that I think he was doing that season. He was on course to have a record season himself then.
I just think for the sake of a trophy, and I think he got 22 goals in that 1920 season. Like, we could have gone so much further backwards. I hear the Martinelli shout, I do, and I think he's very unlucky not to be there. But I think we were literally Aubameyang FC for a good portion of that campaign. If we didn't have him, I don't know what we would have done, and I think we would have done differently in 22-23 without Martinelli. But I think we would have, like, the difference between not having Aubameyang in that team compared to not having Martinelli in the 22-23 team, I think is quite stark. So yeah, I would stick with Aubameyang. I'm going to go, Aubameyang. The Jesus one, are we all saying Jesus 22-23?
Yeah, because I think the level that what I saw from Jesus,
he was unbelievable, but it's just like, it's kind of half a season, isn't it?
I know it's half a season. Although, to be fair to him, he did score a fair few goals when he came back from injury that campaign as well. Yeah. So I'd definitely go.
Yeah.
That level was insane though, the first 19 games.
True. Well, that was a long question. There you go.
That's fun though, wasn't it?
Got us thinking. Absolutely got us thinking. Let's do a slightly different one. I'm going to come to the Discord and come to Luke J. By the way, if you want to join our Discord, you can do so by becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube member. And if you do, we love you. Thank you so much. Luke J says, if each of you could ask Arteta one question about the 24-25 season, what would it be? Good question, Luke. Rohan, start with you.
I would ask him what was his plan. what was his ideal plan had the circumstances have been similar to 22-23 and 23-24 in terms of injuries, because we had better fortune, I'd say, with injuries in those two campaigns, barring obviously certain moments of Saliba falling down alongside Tomiyasu 22-23, Timber early on, because we've said this many times, and I did a tweet on it recently as well. Every single season under Mikel Arteta, there's been a significant tactical change to the way that we play. And this season, I haven't seen something that I have that's like, oh, this is new. So I'd ask him what his plan would have been.
Yep, I think that's a good question. George?
What was the thought process to go through the entirety of the year 2024 without a recognized forward? And how do we ensure that thought process does not happen again after continuously hearing from you that there is
how much of that do you think was him?
Very minimal, but I think as far as the decision from off the pitch to do that, that ultimately becomes a huge problem for how we want to look at the perspective of the team. If the coach is saying that there's, and by the way, the management, like what I find boggling, this isn't just him. It wasn't like Mikel was the only one talking about the need for X factor, or at least what we heard from indirect quotes. Like this was a club-wide mandate and acceptance and reflection point. And so it's like, I just don't understand how you exit a season off the back of historical points totals for the Emirates era, and you say this is probably the most successful the team has been to this date ever, and you've shown this kind of ambition. You all agree on a problem, and then just don't address it. Like there's got to be some kind of reason for it, and I'd love to know why and what you've done to prevent that from happening in the future, because we're gonna have a problem in the future, and I'd like to see how you're gonna solve it. That wasn't this outcome, which I thought was unacceptable.
Yeah, I think I'd want to know about the injury situation, because I'm looking at the absences. To be honest, I think probably first and foremost I'll ask the question that Rohan asked, because I think what would the version of this team with Bukayo Saka fully fit and available, considering what he was numbers-wise, what he was on. I think is he still the second highest assist in the league?
With Cole Palmer, isn't he tied?
Yeah, it's something like that. So like the campaign that he was about to have, with supposedly with Tomiyasu available, with Ben White available, if that was all available, what would you have done? I think is the key question for this campaign, which maybe we'll never know, and hopefully someone would ask him. Not sure he'd tell you, and hope maybe we see it next season. Who knows? But obviously it would be different with signings. But I think I would say, apart from the Ødegaard injury, because that was an ankle twist, and someone jump in if I'm getting any of this wrong, the Jesus one, which was also again like a twist. I think most of the other injuries, I'm probably forgetting someone here, have been like hamstring, or have been things have popped or tweaked, or someone's gone too far in a training session, whatever it might be. These things are very, very complicated. And I think a lot, as we always say on the pod, things get like, people fill in blanks. And I would love there to be more information about what has happened. Why has that happened? Do you think it's just down to load management? Is there going to be changes internally to make sure this doesn't happen again? Is there going to be changes to process? What do you do with this? Like, I think some kind of well-placed question to be like, basically, how do we avoid this happening? Some things you can't stop, like the Ødegaard ankle twist just happened. But for a lot of the other stuff, the Calafiori stuff and the Ben White stuff and Tomiyasu, I'd love to hear more, just to ensure that this doesn't happen again, basically. And it's difficult. You have to look around and ask what other people are doing, and you have to look at Arne Slot, and I think even 2 years before he came to Liverpool at Feyenoord, he had basically a full squad available, and he's had a full squad available again at Liverpool. I'm not saying that's not all luck. I'm just saying I don't know. What is he doing that is meaning he's having everyone available? Is it just luck? If it is, then great. If not, can we learn something? I doubt it is just luck. So I'd love to ask him something like that. George, let's come to you. You on X? No, not X. YouTube. I just associated you with X. Sorry.
From a brilliant question here, actually, like really to get us thinking. At SlimGC27, Rohan hairline reveal?
Brilliant.
Still got the cap on.
Yes. So seriously, at Prem_POV, would you rather get Sesko and Williams or just Isak? There's a lot of like Isak questions, so I think this like encapsulates it. But the mentality of basically this whole age-old thing: are we spending 130 million on one player, or are we using that to split it into two young prospects?
Go on, Rohan.
I think I'll differ between both of you here potentially. I would rather go Sesko and Williams because I think it addresses more needs of the team, although the impact that Isak will have is bigger as of today. But I think Sesko is a certified bank, and I think when I look at him and look at the quality, some of the things that he has that this team doesn't have, although he is raw in certain areas that we've mentioned many times in the pod before, I'm very keen on investing in talent that I know is going to be a bank in the very close future. And Nico Williams as well. I think he's become someone who's gone underrated, where initially I think he was quite overrated. But the talent is there, and I would go for those two over Isak personally.
This is a very, very hard thing because there's so many moving parts here. As a fan, I'm so keen for Arsenal to do a Declan Rice and buy the best thing that is available on the market. Does that make that the best move for Arsenal? Not necessarily. But as a fan, like from my bias, my thing is Arsenal need a forward, and potentially if Newcastle don't get in the Champions League, and based on what Hand of Arsenal was reporting, what we've heard, etc., Arsenal are in a decent position and have been speaking to him for a long time, and there's not no interest there from Isak's side. If that deal can be done and doesn't scupper us for the rest of the window, I am, even just the message, let alone the player that sends of buying the best available attacker on the market. Win now. That is the definition of win now forward. For me, I don't think we're that far away. Like I think if you we absolutely, and we talked about this before, didn't we, in terms of last summer. I think I maintain the position that I think most Arsenal fans, I could be wrong here, but I think most Arsenal fans were in the position that they wanted another forward, but they felt that we could compete with the forwards that we had. It turned out because of circumstance that we didn't. I don't think we need 3 more forwards to go and compete, and to say drop out Sterling and whoever it might be. I really think we're really close. And so therefore I would rather invest my time in, if it can be done, one person who can push us over the edge with one massive punch in the face, rather than 2 maybe slower development stories in Sesko and Williams. However, if it gets to crazy money with Isak and he's asking for £200 million a week and all that stuff, yeah, obviously it's the right thing to do. But just for me as a fan, I just want to see Arsenal buy the best attacker on the market, and maybe that's not even right, but I just think it's the right move. It's the right time as well.
I had put my dream transfer window on Twitter, and part of the problem is I had looked at Barcola and Mbeumo for the same price as Isak. So I don't have the same names as you, as Sesko and Williams in the question. But if I could do the exact same philosophy, both of those would be 130 max, or I'm just getting Alexander Isak. I think that I do more with a Brian Mbeumo and a Bradley Barcola, for example. And so I don't think it has to be Isak. I don't think there's a wrong answer, by the way, to this question. I really don't. I think if you wanted to go Isak or the other way, we're in a position where I think it depends on the name and the quality. And the only thing I'll insist on is it being win now. That's the only tweak I'll make. I think if I was to exit a summer with Sesko and Williams, I will maintain they are the best prospects I've seen on the market, but they are prospects. And I don't think we would have solved our biggest X factor need in the moment. I think they'll become it, but I still think that we will be looking for the team to be complete as a whole, to allow them the growth to both shine and become the players we need. And I can't be a hypocrite when I've sat here saying for over a year that I need a win now forward. an X factor forward, and you're declining to do it for two players that not that you think that will become the X factor forwards, but just aren't right now. And I look at what this Arsenal project needs, guys, and I don't know how much longer it can honestly go on without a major trophy. And I look at it and I think Sesko and Williams guarantee a major trophy. I think Isak has the potential to do something special as far as a double being concerned. Just that impact alone could push you over the edge. And it's weird because I think both scenarios basically end with similar amounts of trophies. That makes sense. I think Isak front loads your trophies. And I think Sesko and Williams could guarantee an era of dominance that will give you. I just can't guarantee that'll be next year. And that becomes, can Arsenal survive another year without the Champions League and the Premier League?
Yeah. And I think we're running out of time. I honestly do. And I think a lot of these players, the Salibas and Sakas, if we go another year, we're already having conversations about, maybe one more year. We're already having those conversations. If we went another year, I'm kind of done with this making it up in the aggregate thing. You know what I mean? Like, well, if we'll sign two players who can kind of give us the things that we need. If there is a player available who can give us everything we need in one player, who I believe that to be Isak, I think he can do everything. I think he's the most complete forward in Europe, in my opinion. Not that he doesn't have weaknesses, but he's the most complete forward. If we can do that as a shot in the arm to this project, it's not just the kind of what skills we're looking for. For me, it's the message, it's the impact, it's the shockwave, it's the Arsenal are serious. That stuff has an impact, and the fear, we saw it with Saliba Gabriel. We saw that they were a bit rattled by him, and that sort of stuff. Sesko and Williams may get there, but and also George, when he said about money, if we're looking at cost per annum for two players with their wages plus the transfer, I think actually you'd end up being cheaper to go with Isak over the two. It won't be loads, but I do think you'd be cheaper to go with Isak rather than both of them. So unless you think Isak's going to be 150 or 160, which I personally don't. So yeah, for me, I do think the message aspect of it feels a little bit kind of talk sport, but actually I think it has an impact. But Rohan, I'll let you finish.
I think just really quickly, my one thing is I would like to change those names in that question. Personally, I find the debate a little bit better with a Barcola and Mbeumo, if I was to entice you with something like that, as far as the win now fear. And I look at those two things, and I mean, if you were to triple Brian Mbeumo's wages, he's still only £135,000 a week. Yeah. And if you were to more than double Bradley Barcola's wages, he's still only £150,000 to £180,000 a week. And so between the two of them, I think Isak is coming for £350,000 a week minimum, personally, by the way, even at a package of £130 million. So I think when I'm debating, and so when I'm debating, I guess, those two packages, I think Barcola and Mbeumo are more win now. And it's a better debate. I think with those two, I could actually guarantee you something huge. But you solve two things with that money. And I just don't know the feasibility, mainly of a Barcola. I actually think if we went out to go get a Mbeumo, it would be actually a deal that we could do quite easily. But to guarantee you Barcola, the feasibility, but I don't know, I can't guarantee Isak. I don't know if Isak necessarily is one of those feasibility guarantees as well, right? Like it's one of those things that we're what if kind of thing as well. But yeah, I just think as long as it's win now, is my long-winded rant of saying win now for the package of 130 million. If you can do that by splitting it with two signings, I'm okay. If you can do that with Isak, I'm okay. I want the 130 million pounds to be win now, that I'm not guessing about the output and the potential. And I want it to guarantee a Premier League or a Champions League. I want to walk out of the summer with my chest out saying Arsenal will win this, and I'm confident that they're favourites to do it. Not that they could, which I think was the question last summer with the whole forward thing. They could compete. I don't want that. No, Arsenal will win the Premier League is what I want to be saying with the forward investment.
Yeah, I think, like you said, George, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think where I sit on this is I'm very set on Arsenal signing two forwards this summer. I think it's a fundamental need. I don't believe just signing one is enough, even though it's an Isak. And if Isak stays fit, then I do agree that would be as close to a guarantee as you can get. But I'm a firm believer that even with a Sesko and a Williams, we can win the league, and I'd be pretty confident in us winning the league with those options, with what we have right now as well. My ideal choice would be Barcola as well. I've mentioned this many times, like, in terms of a winger, that to me is exactly what I'd want. And I think from a Mikel Arteta point of view, he fits into so many of the qualities that can easily translate into the current system as well. But I do think signing an Isak, if that happened, I think it would send shockwaves, especially if it would again show Arsenal versus Liverpool. Liverpool are going to go in for Isak this summer. I'm adamant on that, and I think Arsenal will obviously throw their name in that hat as well. And if you are then again able to show that you are still the top dogs when you're competing against Liverpool, despite the fact that they've won a Premier League, that sends a significant message of just how big Arsenal are and what they're trying to achieve. So, but I just think we need 2 forwards this summer. Personally, like I just want more depth in the front line. So,
back to the dreaded website, please, Mr. Rohan Jivan.
This is from FUT Stephen A. You expect Arsenal to set up versus Madrid as a counter-attacking team or something else? So I'm guessing he's asking, what do you think is going to be the mindset of Arsenal approaching these 2 games against Madrid?
If I know Mikel Arteta, that is not what he's going to do. I think we'll look to contain them. I think we'll look to not necessarily sit, low block and fully. I think what people are expecting. I don't see that, but I think we'll look to sit on our mid block. I think we'll look to be quite careful. I think we'll look to be quite safe in possession. Unfortunately, it's just going to be the way we are. We'll play off set pieces. We'll play off moments. Probably transition moments are going to be asked to slow down and play out wide. Look, we've got a question in a second about skills in this squad. We are not a team that's set up to counter. And Mikel is not going to, and he knows that. And the question is, will we do that? But Mikel knows that, as in, will we move forward in the summer and do that? I can't see us setting up in that way. I really think we'll set up to mostly nullify their weaknesses, which will annoy some people, by the way, but it might be effective. Nullify their strengths, sorry.
Yeah, I would like us personally to play to our strengths, and that means making sure that we have the best press possible, going man to man, making sure that we're cutting off the build up. As far as defending deep in a low block, I'm totally fine with it. It's something that Madrid have really struggled with this season, and I don't want us to try to be something we aren't. That's the only thing I don't want from this tie. And I think that we've had a tendency in Europe potentially to make ties more than they are. I look at Bayern, was frustrated with some of the approaches that we made. I look in the past at Olympiacos, at some of the sporting ties. There was a tendency for us to play to the occasion as opposed to the opponent in front of us. And I'd like us to just approach this with what we feel our best game plan is. And I think that includes, for me, I don't care that Mikel Merino is a striker and how crazy that sounds. You press them. You press them from the start. You don't let them breathe. And if you allow Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo to get the ball in transition, you are always giving Madrid the type of game that they want. And I think pressing is the best way for us to squeeze their opportunity to run. Because I've always said as a coach, you can never stop those type of players. Like, if you're hoping to make it a 1v1 battle, and I'd still put Miles and Timber, and I think they'd fare the best. But if you're hoping to make it a 1v1 battle, I think that's a poor loss. Take away the territory that they can run into and the access to them. Take that away, they'll never get the ball. And if you can control those things which are in your control, then great. But you can't control Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo and a Bellingham.
I watched the first half of Madrid Villarreal a week ago because it was my friend's birthday and he's a Madrid fan. This was their lineup: Fran Garcia left back, Raul Asensio left centre back, Tchouaméni centre back, Vasquez on the right. Villarreal properly stepped onto them, and they were really struggling to play out their first phase. Honestly, people will be scared of Madrid, and I get that, and we should do a watch of Madrid, and they are. Once they get around your box, you are done. Let's be clear, in terms of their methods of chance creation and the volume of shots that they could get off at you, it's insane. But are you seriously telling me that Arsenal, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best pressing team in the world, can't press a back line of Fran Garcia, Raul Asensio, Tchouaméni, who's a midfielder, and Lucas Vasquez? Do you know what I mean? play the game, not the badge. I completely echo that, and I think we should maybe even watch that game because it was really interesting how they did it as well. But they weren't scared, and they created some problems for them. Let's come back to the Discord. I'm going to do 2 because one's a quick one. This is from Watch Doge. Sign, loan, reject. Palmer, Foden, Garnacho.
Garnacho.
Don't know why he's in that conversation, but anyway.
Sign Palmer, loan Foden, and sell Garnacho. I think that's quite
Retweet.
Garnacho.
Dinny says, random hypothetical. Would you take winning the UEFA Champions League and Liverpool bottling the league to us if it meant losing Saka in the summer? So basically, winning the double, but we'd lose Saka.
No.
Yeah, agree. No. No.
Come on. You wouldn't take losing Saka to win the double.
No. Saka is an era of dominance. I don't need this short thing of 2 trophies as far as... it depends on if you believe that Saka can't deliver that across his career and more. The loss of Saka is like losing multiple Champions Leagues and the impact it has that an Arsenal academy, like literally the heartbeat of this team, leaving at this point in his career when he's about to become something different entirely, would send me to a different stratosphere of anger.
Okay, but take your fan emotion out of it. Arsenal win a Premier League and a UEFA Champions League, and you wouldn't, and we can replace Saka.
Very much disagree with that. I don't think.
No. I'm not saying to the same level, but you can sign another player who can play on the right, and
No. But see, that's my point. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Like he's in that strat. He was having a season in the Mbappe level for me. Saka. Like if we look at his numbers,
guaranteed PL and UCL. How is this even any player?
Oh, because Saka is for me. This is. I think this is my point. Like, okay, it's one double versus losing your franchise for 3 or 4 years. That, in my opinion, and I'll state, Saka will win us multiple Champions Leagues and Premier League titles. Multiple, like S's with those statements. We will win 2 Champions Leagues and 2 Premier Leagues if Saka stays for the next 3 to 5 years. That's what I believe.
But you're being definite about something you can't be definite about. You can't ensure that.
I can.
You can ensure well, maybe you feel that, but you may feel that, but you can't ensure it. I can ensure you. I can hand it to you a Premier League and a Champions League. I'm taking that over maybe a Premier League and Champions. I'm not saying I necessarily disagree that Saka can deliver that, but I'm being handed it. You're handed a Premier League and Champions League. I'm taking that every time in one season as well. What a season! Never get to... look, this is very hard to say about the player that everyone wants to get, but I think there's no player you should get attached to over the club. No player is bigger than the club, and I think that's what that is saying. We're saying this player is bigger than our club and our trophies. He can't be, not even Bukayo Saka.
I don't think that's what they're saying. I think it depends on how much you believe in the project as well. Like I believe in the project in that Arsenal can win a double, without needing to be guaranteed in that sort of situation. So I'm not getting rid of Saka for that, no. Because if Saka stays here for 3-4 seasons after this campaign, I'm adamant that Arsenal will win major honours. Like,
I think we do as well. But you're guaranteed. You are literally you're given it. And I think to me, the club has to come first over any talent. A guaranteed success for the club has to come first over any talent, in my opinion.
I don't think it's a talent thing, though, right? Because it's not just the player that you're looking to guarantee. I also think what it shows to the rest of the global world. Like that would be the return of Arsenal as a selling club, by the way. Like, in terms of impact, we're talking about your best player who you've come from the academy and is reaching a point in the world where he's top 3 forwards in the world. Like, he was at a level in which when you talk about Mbappe and your Vinicius Juniors, Saka was there. He was doing that this season. So you're losing. It's like saying, can I lose Vinicius Junior or Mbappe on Madrid and be okay to sustain titles all for the price of the double?
Madrid would say if Madrid were asked this question about Vinny Jr., they would take a league in the Champions League over Vinny Jr. Because
I think Madrid's different though.
Because fine. But my point is, you say the club almost regresses. No, we've won a Premier League and Champions League, and we've entered European royalty by doing that. I'm not saying you can replace Saka. You can't replace Saka. But the point is, there's always new talent. You can't guarantee with any team, any club. There's so many variables. You're on the table at Premier League and Champions League. I'm taking that for the club over a talent any day. It doesn't matter who the talent is. It could be Thierry Henry reborn. Doesn't matter. The club's more important to me.
I don't think it's a club thing.
En mi opinion.
That's the only thing I'll say. Yeah. I don't think it's a club thing. That's
Don't
all.
you worry. We'll be winning that double with Saka.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go on, George.
Okay, so from the YouTube side, I'm going to say from I don't know dash Redox RE9DX. I don't know how to pronounce that. But have you seen Vieira's recent form? 5 contributions in 5 games, 3 goals in 3. Do you think we sell him or keep him?
I think we will sell him, but that is not something I would want to do. I maintain, and I've said this to you before, George, as well, in that I do not believe Fabio Vieira has had a fair chance at Arsenal so far. Mm-hmm. I stand by that. He has not had any sort of continuity whatsoever. You're judging a player through small cameos, small glimpses in cup games in which he's not got like Fabio Vieira, a lot of his performances came in the Europa League from the get-go. And you look at how we rotated our teams when we were in that competition. It's difficult to judge a player in that sort of environment. And even in this final campaign, last year's campaign, he had that game against Burnley where he came on, he got a red card, and we barely saw him again after that. He made a poor decision in the moment for sure, but I just don't believe we've been able to see him flourish. And I put that down on Mikel personally. And I hold this on not just Vieira, but on other players as well, like Reece Nelson. They've not been given a fair opportunity to showcase their qualities. And I think this team, in terms of where it's going, with Zubimendi coming in, is more suited to a Fabio Vieira. Now, obviously, this is all theoretical and it's all on paper, but in terms of how this team is starting to be assembled going into the next campaign, I think it's set up for Vieira to have an impact, and I just hope he gets more opportunities. So, but I do think we'll sell him. That's the feeling I have.
I just looked at his numbers. 21-22, he played 27 matches, got 6 goals and got 14 assists in Liga Portugal. And this season he's had 18 matches and got 4 goals and 3 assists. I haven't watched a moment of I've seen a few comps, but I haven't watched like a game of Fabio Vieira in the Portuguese league. It's very hard. I think anyone who says this is going to translate, I don't know. I don't think you can be that secure, because we've seen it before where he got 20 GA in 27 matches in 21-22, came to the club. He might be a different player now, but the idea that he's doing it there, so he'll do it here. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But any suggestion that this is guaranteed that he translates and look what he's doing. He's done this before. We signed him. It didn't work out. So what's different? The player's going to be different. The environment's going to be different. All those sorts of things. So it would be different, but I don't know how, and I don't think you can guarantee. Look what he's doing. Let's just put him in the Arsenal team. This has happened before. So yeah. I don't know.
Do you think he's been given a fair opportunity though?
Probably not. But I'd love to see him in pre-season. The problem with opportunity is, I think what happens sometimes we look at talents and we go, they haven't been given the right opportunity. They've got this talent or whatever. The best talents just seize their opportunity. It doesn't matter. They're given a minute. They're given 20 minutes. They're given 30 minutes. They show you what they can do. That's why Miles has taken, and that's what we praise Miles for, that he got his opportunity, he seized it, he took it, and he ran with it. Look, could Vieira be given more favourable circumstances? Almost certainly. But the very best talents, the ones who break games, the one who deserve to go and be given the starting berth to go and win Arsenal Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues, they're the guys who take the game to them. They say, I don't need what you said about Saka, the other day, Rohan. I don't need these perfect circumstances. I can still deliver. And I think we can keep searching for these perfect circumstances for Vieira, and maybe that's right. But for me, he's running out of opportunities, certainly. I want to see him in pre-season. I want to see him given more time, personally.
Do you not think that we paint his numbers, though? I've heard that before, but if you actually look at his numbers, in the minutes he played for Arsenal. Let's ignore the talent projection and the skills and what we're looking at as far as, matching up where the team is going even. If you look at his numbers were incredible as far as output went on a per 90 basis. In the few opportunities he went, we're not talking about a player that didn't provide output. In fact, in that same season, per 90, he had a better XA than Martin Odegaard. And, I mean, there's all the caveats as far as a small sample size, but it's because he wasn't given the opportunities to do it.
He got, I mean, to be fair, mate, he got 6 GA in 2 seasons over 33 appearances. Like, it's not. He's not
look at his expected assists over per 90, and look at the minutes that he got. His ratio is incredibly high as far as what he's providing on the stick for the opportunities that he's got. And I think fundamentally I'm with you, Rohan. He had no opportunity, but even in the opportunities he had, I really push back. If you look at the numbers, you look at the tape, he was consistently providing some sort of impact, some big chance. And this is a player that, as far as profile goes, when you're talking about bringing the game to people, he's a 10 that scores goals, has probably one of the best ball strikings in the squad, one of the best final balls in the squad. I think he'll be sold. I don't think it'll be this year. I think we're a year out. We're looking at Max Dowman and Ethan Waneri both hoping to come into this team. And it's a race as whether or not Fabio Vieira can outperform that talents and when. And I don't know if I can trust the academy lads to carry me through a season right now. So I think it's a year early if we were to sell him. And again, if we put again the burden on the club to buy another profile like that because we simply don't have that in the squad. So we're having a very similar conversation, in my opinion, to Emile Smith-Rowe, which actually I think Emile had even more of a benefit of reputation because I think Fabio Vieira performed more than Emile. And they were both talents that didn't get the opportunity to play, that both solve things that we struggle with as far as central progression and offering something middle, or different rather, turning in the middle of the park. I don't know. I think the only thing I'd push back on is even in the opportunities that he showed, I think if you look at his statistics, he was somebody that was giving impact, but there was that out of possession question mark. That was the thing that was keeping him out of the team. I don't think it was an in possession question, a question on talent, his ability to impact in the final third. It was always whether or not this is somebody that can buy into the out of possession philosophy with Arsenal and do enough out of possession to be an influence. But I mean, I remember people telling me he doesn't do enough in build-up. And I'm like, well, I don't think you've watched Fabio Vieira. That was primarily one of his jobs at Porto. This was a player that, as far as what Arsenal were asking him to do, they weren't asking him to do some of the things that you're not showing. So it's this weird thing where if we're not going to use him, you want to sell him. But this is a talent we can use. This is a talent that's proven it not just in the Portuguese league for me. He's shown that he can impact at this level. It's a matter of, are you going to give him a chance? Are you going to give Fabio Vieira 5 90-minute games in a season with somebody that isn't 2 out of the 3 B-choice midfielders to go and play? And if you do that, and you're telling me, I don't think he scores a single goal and assist, George, I don't think he makes an impact in those 5 90 games, I'd have to disagree with you. I think he does. And I think the team's moving towards his type and his type of player. So it would be perplexing to me to do it now, especially without seeing what we've got. But if we do it, we then have to buy it, that profile.
I think the point about, consistent 90s in a row, I think is a fair one. The point though is you have to earn that. You have to earn that through training. You have to earn that through your performances. You have to earn that through something beyond, unfortunately, expected numbers. Like I'm sorry, for me that has to penetrate and sort of translate to the pitch. And I just feel there's always been, ever since 2022, we talked about Fabio Vieira, there's a lot of sort of ifs this happens and when that happens and, if he's given this and if he's given a run of it. Ultimately, if he deserved it, if he warranted it in training, he would be, like, the coach would give it to him. And maybe he does, and maybe it's down to the coach, and there's definitely a conversation there. But I think he deserves some more time at Arsenal, but I think he needs to take a little bit of responsibility for his performances. I don't think he's been good enough, personally, to warrant, like, what, he absolutely guarantees and he deserves this, 5 starts in a row. He has to earn that. He has to, for me, to come in pre-season and show us a level and go, wow, okay, you deserve something, and that has to translate properly and then be given that. You can't just, I think it's a bit, I don't know what the word is. It's a bit. It's a bit like, I don't know what the word is, but it just feels a little bit sort of unfair on the others, maybe, when Aeri's performing at the level, and he has to fight that. He has to sort of rip that shirt off them and say, give it to me. And I've never felt that from Vieira.
Thing is, though, in terms of the pre-season point, I actually thought he was having a good pre-season last summer. Like, I remember the Bournemouth game, he looked good. United, when he came on, he looked good. Lyon, when he came on, he looked good. Like, that's why I was really shocked when I saw the loan link surface, and then it happened really quickly.
But is look good enough to start for Arsenal five games in a row, which might be the difference between Premier League and Champions League?
Martin hasn't looked good
that's the question.
For 5 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, for sure. But that's a different conversation. But in terms of giving him an opportunity.
For me personally, like even when Fabio Vieira might get a lot of opportunities next season. Let's say he stays and he doesn't perform, and then we asked the question of the play ultimately wasn't good enough. Fine, I'm happy to have that conversation. But I just don't feel it's fair for me to sit here spending 35 million on a player and we haven't seen those 90 minutes. Yes, there's probably things in training that we are not exposed to, that we don't know, but we can only sit with the information that we have right now. And I think this is a player who, every time he's came on, he's been shoehorned towards the right wing as well. In Premier League games when he's came on like 20-minute cameos, I just think we can do more to help him, and that's where I stand on it. And I actually thought he was having a decent pre-season, one that I was a bit shocked that he did leave for a loan. So.
The thing I definitely don't disagree on is the 90 minutes. I think he deserves that time, but the idea he's going to be given repetition, more time, he has to earn that. And for me, he hasn't done enough. He's done a lot, but he hasn't done. When I'm asking
you, think is fair? Like, let's say, like, as a like, if we're all saying that he needs minutes, but like he has to show more and he has to take it from the shirt. Objectively, like, what would be enough for us to say, no, we've seen him at the level. He's not been able to translate. Could be a fault of whatever, but we'll move on and we'll buy another profile. But how many minutes does that look like us realistically saying that's fair? Because I think anything under 600 to 700 minutes seems unfair to me to say, oh, yeah, that's another season in which I'm looking at a player who was given a fair shake, so to speak.
He had approaching 600 in 23-24. I think it's the point for me is more about consistency, but you have to go game by game. For me, it's a case of let's see him in pre-season. If he's impacting games, let's give him another game. If he's impacting games, let's give him another game. He has to show us. I think that for me, I mean, he's had that amount of minutes objectively. So I think it's you have to go game by game at this point, and then maybe it requires a sale at the end of summer type thing. It's one of those things where we sort of see how he integrates, see where he is, see where he is with Waneri, see how other players are performing, and then go from there. But for me, I place this a lot more on the player maybe than other people, because there's a lot of stuff we don't see. And if he was performing, I suppose my point on Vieira has always been there's not this game-winning, Premier League-winning, Champions League-winning player that's just been really unfairly shafted. He has to take a little, in training, everyone's going, why isn't this guy playing? I doubt that's happening. I think we need to see that, and that has to happen soon, in my opinion. Let's come to... Who haven't we gone to recently? George, go on.
Oh, no, I think we just did me. I can go again.
Oh, you did yours?
Yeah, I was Vieira. Let me see.
Sure. Go on, Raham.
I've got one from X, and another fun one. And it's from @Calafiori_Hive. Each of your realistic and dream transfer windows. I think we should just do dream transfer windows because we spoke about like realistic.
Dream
transfer window. I'll go.
Oh, God.
Go on.
I've got it too.
I'll go Juan Garcia. In terms of prospect, I think that'll be a fantastic signing for sure. Nuno Mendes, left back. Eduardo Camavinga. Bradley Barcola. And Isak.
Wake up.
You said
you
dream.
did say dream. Did say dream.
And that, oh my God, I'd get so horny after that. Oh my God.
Yeah, that would be so nice. Yeah, I mean, dream. Yeah, something like that. I think dream that's like
but
maybe
also a little bit balanced as well. Not like okay,
yeah,
Vinicius, and you got to taper it a little bit.
No, you know what kills me? Roy goes a little bit balanced following from Eduardo Camavinga.
Yeah, Eduardo Camavinga, Barcola, and Isak. Yeah, you got to have a little bit of balance, mate. Yeah.
Oh, you're the greatest.
I mean, yeah, Mbappe, prime Messi, prime Ronaldo. Go on, George, you go.
Victor Osimhen, release clause, 70 million. Barcola, Lucien Agume, and Juan Garcia.
Crazy dreams. I have very wild dreams, as Mikel says. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, if we're just going like names, I think Isak number one, start off the summer. Like, I suppose my dream window is like the order of things. We sign Isak June the 1st or whatever it ends up being, and it's just done. You know what I mean? And then we sort of populate the squad. I think the Nuno Mendes shirt is nice. I would love that. Who's the bloke that from Sporting that because I'm Quenda? He's on the right though, isn't he?
He's gone to Chelsea in your time off.
Yeah, no, I know. But when I watched him, something in that profile on the left, I think would be really interesting, like a 17, 18-year-old from the continent. I don't really know. I would love like a Wirtz or a Musiala. It's never going to happen. But we're talking dream. We're talking absolute dream. Wirtz, Isak and Wirtz.
Wait, so if we're gonna do those, hold on. If I thought we were trying to be a little bit feasible,
I think I've gone way too like.
Yeah. Brian's pushed the boat.
I've gone so feasible here. I feel okay. Like if we're gonna do that, I have a different answer. Okay. If I can do whatever I want, I would swap Eduardo Camavinga there. In mine, I would still have Osimhen, Barcola. Those are my favorite forwards, and I would put Eduardo Camavinga. And I'd loan some random goalkeeper as well. Like I would be okay getting rid of that, given all that.
Norberto Neto. Let's go back to the Discord. Question from Tipsy, who says, what skill gaps that exist in our squad, either from a tactical or player profile standpoint, would you say are the 3 highest priority issues to solve for next season? No need for a specific order. Okay, so yeah, we're just in terms of the skill in the squad. How you achieve it is a different question, but the skill in the squad, when we get a high turnover, getting more shots off. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether that's necessarily number 1, but it's pretty high up there. 2, maybe solve this with Miles, but more central access reception on the inside in dangerous areas and turning and be able to actually affect things from there. Because I still think even if we're going wide, we can do that better. And 3rd, someone in the box who is a proper penalty box demon. Someone who can properly sniff shots out, back post, swivel, just get shots away. Those are probably my 3.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like lean into a few of those. Not a skill, but in terms of a trait, we need pace for sure. This team lacks serious pace, and it becomes very easy for teams to press onto you because they know you're not going to threaten them in behind, and that's what Manchester United did as well. Like, there were so many moments where we were able to play through their, very disjointed press, and then we're open and we're through, but then there's a lack of speed on the last line that really scares United in those moments. So that's something that we absolutely need to address. I don't think we have enough players who can create consistent separation 1v1 and then get shots off as well. Like, I don't think we have enough players who can kind of receive it on the hard turn, drive, and then commit plays and then breeze past them like Gabriel Jesus did in his heyday. I think that is something this squad absolutely needs. In more instinctive finishes, Arsenal play the food too much in box situations. I maintain that, and it's really frustrating for me. And I think that's, again, it goes back into the argument of adding more quality. And a lot of the players that we've mentioned, solve a lot of this. So
yeah.
Josh? Yeah, I think two of the things that you mentioned, Alex, is like something that we've talked about on the pod for so much. So absolutely the transition to shots and that box efficiency. But I'll just go a little bit further on that one. Like, I want to be able to move people in the box. We're going to be facing a lot of low blocks down the line. I want us to if we're going to cross like we do against Inter Milan and like a lot of other teams, I need to find different ways of moving people as opposed to us just throwing up stuff in the box that we're not going to get to. So I would like that. And lastly, balance. I need to see more connection over the left. I know me and you, Rohan, we talked a little bit in that week away from Alex when we had a look at the build-up patterns and the very nerdy aspect of that. When you're away, we get really nerdy, Alex. We look at passing networks and the top 5 passing networks and things like that. And it was disgusting to see 0 on the left. Like 0. There was the top 5 and they were all on the right. And I just think balancing the way that we attack. We have the same principles. I like them, but let's make sure we balance them both sides of the pitch more effectively. And to do that, let's make sure that we balance the pods more consistently throughout the season. I think that was a big thing as far as coaching errors that I saw from Mikel this season as a whole. I know we've talked a little bit about the coaching errors at times. I think balance was the biggest issue for me that Mikel has had, coaching error-wise. And making sure that he's balancing, respecting dynamic width on the outside. So maybe less of a skill buy, but coaching skill that we need to see a bit more of.
Let's do 2 more questions. One from each of you. So one from YouTube and one from the dreaded website. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
I don't mind.
Go ahead, Rohan. Please be my guest.
Okay. This is from Saka Nation on X. Do you see Berta just wrapping up long-term target deals we've been linked to, or do you see him challenging Arteta to go for alternatives he rates, or a mixture of both? Like, I guess it's more of a question of how do you see that relationship transpiring, and what's going to be Berta's like main roles and responsibilities.
I saw something from The Athletic that was essentially outlining his relationship with Simeone, which was very much Simeone would give his thoughts and opinions on what he wanted, and Berta would have his targets and stuff, and they kind of come together in a almost dovetailing. It sounded quite like the Arteta Edu thing, where Berta would have the contacts and his ideas of squad building and what he wanted to do with long-term planning, and then Simeone would talk through what the specifics of what he wanted. There was some stuff which I again is difficult to verify, and I don't want to just repeat with no verification, but maybe so take this with a pinch of salt, that there was some criticism around Atletico sort of in the circles that Berta didn't always seem to get Simeone players. So whether there's an alignment thing there, I don't know. But also there might be, sometimes a non-Arteta player might be a good thing. It's not always a bad thing. I personally do see the relationship. I think Berta will come with strong ideas. I can't imagine a guy with his record, with the manager he worked with the deals he's been involved in, not coming in with very strong ideas of what he wants to do. But I also doubt that he's been given this job without being very clear that there will be other voices in the room. So I look, I think in any situation, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's balanced, as long as different perspectives are taken in, I think it's really important that people have different views and are allowed to hold them. It shouldn't just be one person's idea and that's it. It should be balanced. So I don't know. It's difficult to say because we're talking about relationships that we don't know about. But ultimately, I do feel it will be pretty balanced. I think that's the key, though, isn't it? It's like as long as it's a cohesive unit and there's harmony there and everyone's aligned to the same goals, it doesn't matter. I actually think it's way better for Berta to have his own ideas in terms of what players he believes can impact Arsenal, and Mikel to have his own ideas, because then you can get some really good solutions that occur that Mikel might not have thought about, and that player, let's say you're able to get them in, can make that impact because Berta has been there. I mean, this is someone who has been surrounded by a plethora of insane attacking quality, like at Atletico Madrid, and that was even during his time as a scout there as well. I think it was. So yeah, I think that'll be perfect for me. Like as long as it's healthy and it's cohesive, but they have completely different ideas on what players to bring in. That's perfect.
Yeah, I think I talked about this on the Berta pod that I did when I went solo a little bit, where I think he's an incredibly strong personality, but it wouldn't surprise me to know that he is facilitating things this summer as opposed to really putting his voice. Like, I think he'll come with targets, especially we're going to ask his opinion. He'll have his opinion. But as far as the plan, I really think a lot of things are in motion, and he'll be the one, hopefully, making negotiations quite swift, nuanced. Like, we may see aspects in how we do business with a Berta stamp as opposed to who we do business with a Berta stamp in this summer. And I think things like potentially some of the contract negotiations, like making sure those things are really tied up quick, making sure that we really tie up 2 to 3 talents within the first couple weeks of the transfer window opening, like the speed to which we do, the amount of business we do. Like maybe at the end of the summer, we're looking that we've sold 5 or 6 players, we've bought 4 or 5 players, and we're like, wow, this is one of the busiest summers we've had. Like, I think that'll be Berta stamps this summer. But as far as, like, for example, no, we're not going for Sesko, we're doing Samo and Morojan. I think that big I'm Berta and I'm exerting that control may happen next year, in my opinion. And I think it'll be a little bit more collaborative off the jump. And only because it is quite, like, soon, guys. Like, we appointed him now in March. Like, these conversations for targets have happened, had to have happened, you know? So I don't know if I've seen him have, you know, enough time to really do it and gel. I mean, he's going to come in there with a big plan, a ton of work to do. And I don't know how much the Tim Lewis axis, like, I have a feeling the ownership will want to see Berta prove his worth. As crazy as that sounds, you've bought him, you've put him through the ringer, but I think they will say, you need to prove yourself with some output and give us some things that we haven't seen. And you do that, you get more power.
Yeah, I think so. The article was, who is Andrea Berta, Arsenal's incoming sporting director, from The Athletic a couple of weeks ago, and it said manager Simeone has very clear ideas about what players he wants and was a driving force behind certain arrivals, and Berta had a say in overall squad planning, managing the club's scouting network, working with agents, negotiating contracts. It was also his responsibility to make sure Atletico kept within La Liga's strict financial control rules. I think that sounds similar to the Arteta-Edu relationship, and I think you're right, George, that it will probably come in and there'll be there's a lot to do in terms of contract-wise and squad planning and integrating yourself. Yeah, so I can't imagine he's going to be too bullshit. Equally, though, there may be something where he says, actually, I'm really going to push this transfer and I want this, make this my statement transfer. Who knows? I guess only time will tell. Let's do one more question from YouTube.
So this is from It Starts From Here. If we side Sesko,
really,
do you think Arteta will push our wingers inside or push our midfielders up and still keep our wingers wide? And I guess a caveat to that, which striker out of a Isak or a Sesko do you think Martinelli will benefit the most from, and why?
Isak with Martinelli would cook. I think with Sesko, that necessitates like a Nico Williams signing, someone who can on their own, and I talk about this all the time, get from the touchline inside like a Nico Williams. I don't think Martinelli would thrive at all with a Sesko because I think he'd be dominating the box.
I think with Isak, if you want like that 22-23 Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus from the get-go, that first 19 games, stylistically in terms of transferable qualities, Isak and Martinelli would be a serious dynamic.
You look at Gordon right now, like that's basically the dynamic.
Yeah, so I think he'd be fantastic with Isak for sure.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a wider conversation on Martinelli in terms of how Mikel is going to use him going forward. Like, I have my opinions on the play. I rate him very highly, but the way Mikel uses him, I just find it very strange personally. And if you're going to use him that way, I just don't see how he's going to be able to fulfill his potential here, which is...
You know what? I've got a question. I know we did a Q&A. I've got a question from you guys. And at what point is there going to be a major project sale that I know Alex loves to have? And who is the best bet for that project sale, in your opinion, in the next 18 months?
If you could show me, I would be sure on this, if you could show me the list of incomings, and I wouldn't even have to see the outgoings because I feel like I'd know. Based on what I think we're going to do, I do think Martinelli moves on. Based on what I think we're going to do. But I could be wrong because it depends what we do. But based on what the signs that are coming out in terms of the attackers that we're targeting, the ones that like the amount we've heard about Nico Williams and the fact that Arteta's supposedly in love with him, all this sort of stuff. I can't see how, and we haven't seen Martinelli down the middle. And this is another thing. If we'd seen Martinelli down the middle in this run, I could see a future for Martinelli at the club, but we haven't. And so when I'm hearing stuff about, other players coming in and other wingers being targeted, that's the sale that makes the most sense to me.
I think it will be Martinelli because of how... I mean, from a very simplistic point of view, you look at the latter stages of last season, and just last season in general, Martinelli didn't have that spot on lock from Mikel's point of view. Look at the number of games Trossard played. And even this season, look at the number of games Trossard has played as well, and both being fit. So from Mikel's point of view, not necessarily what I would do, but I think it would be Martinelli as that, because you go through it, like, Martin Odegaard's form hasn't been good, but Martin Odegaard is not going to be a major sell in my opinion. I just can't see that happening.
Not with this.
I wouldn't want that to happen
setup
either, but yeah, and then it just naturally leans into Martinelli, doesn't it? Like, who else would it be? Like, that's...
I think also because he would be such a good fit for so many other teams, and because we've got a contract option to 2028, and because he's 23, I think it all makes sense for a sale. Like, I think we could get some really good money for him.
That would be quite a bad indictment on Mikel, wouldn't it? Martinelli goes somewhere else and he thrives by being utilised in a different way. I think...
Well, not necessarily, because you have to pick how you want to play, and ultimately, there's players who suit certain systems. If Martinelli moves on, and we sign someone who's better suited to us, and we get good money for Martinelli, it's the right move. I don't think it's an indictment on Mikel.
If that happens, but let's say you bring in a forward, you bring in a Nico Williams, right, and he doesn't thrive, and you see very similar issues arise.
Yeah, that would be.
Side, let's say that'll be a very bad indictment in terms of Mikel not maximising the resources that he has had with certain players, and I can see Martinelli thriving somewhere else, being utilised in a different way. It's. I think it's Alex, a very interesting conversation that's going to develop soon on Martinelli.
It's unfair because we had a kind of conversation last week, and I wanted to bring your thoughts on this because I had brought up this idea that Alexander Isak, as far as the fee goes, is a big fee. But we were actually looking at what the project could do as far as improving players we already have, and namely it was Martin Odegaard. Like, as far as the overperformance on Isak, right? There is about 30 to 40 million pounds that we think it's extra, right? Regardless of where the fee will end up, but there's some of that. Is that overperformance worth it as far as the effect about what you're bringing out? Like, Isak, as far as a forward goes, I'm telling you, Martinelli will become the second forward that you want to see with an Alexander Isak. That relationship will pop off the pitch. I think it will pop off the pitch with a Martin Odegaard. People that are really underperforming right now in this 11, and could that be another justification, as far as saying go over performance on Isak, because you're not just buying the one forward, you're actually reinvigorating two that are underperforming right now, and they really carry some significant impact. I don't want to run away from my own question. I have a lot of Martin Odegaard. Yeah, I have a lot of Martin Odegaard questions in this team moving forward. When Mikel says that he wants his number 10 to play high, closer to the box, and we're buying Zubimendi, and I think the irony is a lot of our moves actually put more strain on Martin Odegaard than they do help him. If I was trying to say, like, Martin Odegaard is my immovable piece, I don't think I'm getting a Zubimendi to supplement that. I'm letting Martin Odegaard do that with Declan Rice, and I'm finding more of a Florian Wirtz. That's my big midfield signing to really make Odegaard specifically thrive long term. And I just don't know how I'm going to see this adaptation period. I think that it's a very touchy topic because of him being the captain. And I think that his poor form has gone beyond... I don't think he's been good all season. And I don't think that's just injury and form. Like, it's got to the point in which there are things that he's showing that are consistent faults that we have. And it's all about how you want to play, how much you like a player, and how much you want to invest in those things and how you want to play, right? But when Mikel is telling me, and Martin Odegaard is telling us himself that, he's working on getting closer to goal, and we're looking at changing his role, and we're buying a player who is probably one of the best as far as middle third orchestrators go, and we know that's the job that Martin Odegaard thrives with doing. I'm wondering how much patience this team will have with Ethan coming up the backside there. in addition to the Martin Zubimendi, in addition to what this team is going to be moving forward, more of a traditional double pivot team. I don't think that it's all over for him, but I do have questions as far as the adaptation might go to being a true number 10. And Isak could solve a lot of those things, as well as Martinelli, right? And I also don't think the Gabriel story, by the way, at the back is all written, personally. This whole Saudi thing, I think we have a very good chance about signing him now, but I do think Gabriel and Saudi is something that isn't far away in 3 years. I don't know if it's certainly now, but that's also another player that I'm not too sure, especially in his last contract cycle, right? Like when we're talking in 2 to 3 years and we have to renew again, it's going to be a difficult conversation, I think.
Yeah, for me, I think the Gabriel thing's less imminent. I could see that happening in a couple of years, but not now. I think specifically on why I'd pick Martinelli over Odegaard, I think firstly because of the project so far in terms of the importance of Martin Odegaard. I think we've massively played more to Odegaard than Martinelli, which is fair. I think what Rohan was saying about Trossard, etc. earlier, but also based on the incomings, I'm saying Martinelli goes based on the fact that I don't think we're getting Isak. I think we're getting Šeško and a winger, and that's why I think Martinelli will go. Maybe they both go, but if we get Isak, I think Martinelli's certainly in the frame for a massive step up, and then we could be looking at Odegaard. Who knows? But I'm basing that based off us probably not getting Isak, because I think Newcastle will get Champions League football. Although with the Anthony Gordon injury, who knows? And then my dream comes true. Thank you all so much for your questions on Discord and on YouTube and on X and all those sorts of things. If you want to follow us on X, you can do so at thecannonpod. As we said earlier, if you want to get on our Discord, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon member. And if you look on the YouTube community page, you can see some things. Have a look there if you want to. We've probably got a scouted coming this way. I think we wanted to do an Agume. I saw someone in the Discord saying we wanted to do an Agume one. Maybe we should do an Agume one. I think we want to do a Madrid watch at some point. We'll do that. And we're not playing till next Tuesday, so we still got a week to fill with content somehow. We'll find a way. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting us on the Cannon Podcast. Really appreciate you guys. As always, if you're listening to us on Spotify and Apple, make sure you subscribe, etc., and YouTube as well. Thank you, Rohan.
Nice one, mate.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. As always, even in the international breaks, thanks for watching and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.